welcome back to this week's What's for Dinner video. This week I have some super easy and delicious meals to share with you. They're really easy to put together and I know your whole family is going to love them. So if you need some really easy meal ideas or just some food inspiration, definitely stay tuned until the very end. And I do upload one of these videos every single week, so if you do really enjoy it, definitely go ahead and hit that little subscribe button. I would love to have you give this video a thumbs up. It really helps out my channel. And let's go ahead and get into this week's What's for Dinner. Alright guys, so to start off this What's for Dinner, I'm going to be making this delicious sausage rigatoni pasta. This was probably my favorite for the whole entire week. It just had so much flavor and it was just absolutely delicious, so I definitely recommend this recipe. I'm just starting off by cutting up half of a yellow onion, and then here I am adding a little bit of olive oil into my pan over medium heat, and I'm going to be cooking up the onion. So here I am adding in that half of an onion, and then I'm also adding in a couple of cloves of minced garlic. I did just use the stuff in the jar. I just used like a couple big scoops of that right into there. And then I'm getting this cooked through until the onions are nice and translucent and they are soft. So once the onions are nice and cooked through, you're going to be adding in your meat. So this recipe calls for about a 1/4 pound of sausage, but I actually did a full pound and then I doubled the rest of the recipe. So I will have this recipe linked down below. Like I said, I doubled everything except for the meat. I actually quadrupled, which sounds crazy, but a pound for a full box of pasta I think is about right. So once your sausage is completely cooked through, you can go ahead and add in your 1/2 cup of broth. The recipe called for beef broth, but I did not have any, so I just used a 1/2 cup of chicken broth, and that worked out just fine. This is going to get any of like the browned bits off the bottom of the pan. And then you can also go ahead and add in your 2 cans of petite diced tomatoes, as well as your 2 cans of tomato paste. Like I mentioned, this is doubled for the sauce recipe, so definitely just look in the description box and you can decide how exactly you want to do it, but I did double the sauce recipe. You're going to get all of this mixed together and then you're going to let it simmer for at least 10 minutes. You want to make sure and let all of those flavors get nice and cooked together. While your sauce is simmering, you can go ahead and get all of your noodles cooked up. So I have my water boiled and then I am just getting my whole box of rigatoni pasta mixed in there. And I'm also salting my water. I just feel like it adds so much flavor to the noodles, so I definitely recommend doing that. And then just go ahead and cook those according to the back of your box. I did go ahead and season up my sauce just a little bit with like a little bit of Italian seasoning, some oregano, some salt and pepper, as well as a little bit of sugar. I just felt like it needed it personally. And then once your noodles are done, go ahead and reserve a little bit of that pasta water and just set it aside because we're going to use that to thin out the sauce. Get your noodles drained off, ready to go, and then you're just going to mix everything together. This is where that pasta water comes in handy. You can definitely use just a little splash of that on top and get it to your desired consistency, but then you're just going to get everything mixed together. I just topped our rigatoni with a little bit of Parmesan cheese and a little bit of parsley, and this dish was honestly so good. I cannot wait to make it again. It was just like the perfect little Italian dish and it was super easy to make, so I definitely recommend this recipe. Next up, I made this creamy Caesar chicken. It was just baked in the oven and it was super easy to make. Definitely a really good recipe for a busy weeknight. So I'm just starting off with 3 chicken breasts and I'm just popping those right into my pan. And I'm seasoning them up with a little bit of just black pepper and some Parmesan cheese. Now we're just going to be mixing up the sauce. So I'm just using this creamy Caesar dressing. It's just great value brand. You can get it at Walmart. I added in about 3/4 of a cup of that right into my bowl. And then I'm also going to be adding in a little bit of Greek yogurt. I really wasn't sure if I was gonna like this or not, but I actually did end up really liking it. The recipe said that you could add sour cream if you wanted to, but I decided to try and be a little bit healthier, so I just added in a couple scoops of that plain Greek yogurt, and it worked out really well for this recipe. So just get all of that mixed together. And then you're just going to take this mixture and try and spread it evenly right on top of your chicken. And then I'm just topping this with another layer of Parmesan cheese. This is gonna give it that like really delicious flavor right on top, and I promise you're going to love it. Then just go ahead and get that set aside while we get our side dishes ready, because you're just gonna pop all of this in the oven at one time. So I am making some roasted broccoli to go with our dinner tonight. So I just have a full head of broccoli, and I'm just getting that cut up into bite-sized pieces. So I did also make sure to get that broccoli rinsed off and washed very, very good. And then I'm moving on to my other side, which is going to be some sweet potatoes. So I'm just cutting off any like imperfection areas, and then I'm just cutting these up into about maybe like 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch cubes. You want them to be pretty small so they make sure and get nice and baked through. But I'm using 2 potatoes for this recipe, and I'm putting them into a separate bowl than the broccoli because I did season the vegetables just a little bit different. So now I am just seasoning up those sweet potatoes. I'm drizzling them with a little bit of olive oil, some garlic powder. I did some Italian seasoning. I also did a little bit of basil in there. And then of course you're going to want some salt and pepper for all of that good flavor. And you're just gonna get all of that mixed together. Feel free to tweak your seasonings as needed. You guys know I always say this on these types of recipes. You just gotta go with what your family likes. And then I am just getting those popped right into my pan. I did add a little bit of olive oil onto the bottom just so nothing got stuck in there. And then I'm also going to be seasoning up the broccoli. I'm just adding that right into the same bowl, drizzling that with a little bit of olive oil. And I kept this super simple for seasonings. I just did some garlic powder and some salt and pepper, toss that together and throw it right into the baking dish as well. Once everything is ready to go, I'm just popping both of those dishes right into a 375-degree oven for about like 30 to 40 minutes. It's going to depend on the thickness of your chicken breast, and you just want to make sure that all of your vegetables are cooked through as well. My vegetables were definitely cooked through, and I just left them in there until my chicken was all the way done. But we honestly really love this recipe. For this next night, I did some baked mac and cheese with just like some spicy chicken tenders on the side. So I'm starting off with making the baked mac and cheese. I ended up doing about half of this recipe just because it was just our small little family. So I just added in about 1/2 a box of these noodles, a little bit of salt in the water, and then I'm just getting those cooked up. You don't want them cooked all the way through. You want them to be just a little bit undercooked. And then go ahead and get those added into a bowl. And you're going to be tossing them with a little bit of olive oil just so nothing gets stuck together. Now into that same large saucepan, you're going to be getting your sauce ready. So here I'm just adding in about 1/2 a stick of butter, and I'm just getting that all melted through completely. And then I'm also going to be adding in about 1/4 cup of regular all-purpose flour, and I'm getting that cooked up together. I let it cook for right around, I think like 2 or 3 minutes, but you do want to make sure that it is nice and cooked through. And then you're also going to be adding in about a 1/4 cup of milk. I just used whole milk because that's what I had on hand, and I did kind of gradually add that in just so it didn't get all chunky or anything. And I felt like it was just not the consistency. I wasn't loving it, so I added a little bit more milk. I would say I added probably about a 1/3 cup total if I had to guess. I just added another little splash in there and got that all mixed together before adding in my can of evaporated milk. So you're gonna add this full can in there and get all of that mixed together. You're also going to be adding in about 1/2 teaspoon of salt as well as 1/2 teaspoon of black pepper. Go ahead and get that mixed together, and then you're just gonna kind of let this come up to where it's just starting to boil. You want it to start to thicken just a little bit, and then once that happens, you can go ahead and add in your cheese for this recipe. So I am using Colby and Monterey Jack just because it's what I had on hand, but I definitely would recommend cheddar if you want more of that like classic mac and cheese, but this is what I had, so I just added in 2 cups of that shredded cheese, and I'm just letting all of that melt together. And then you're just gonna dump those noodles right into your cheese sauce mixture. Get that mixed together. I will say at this point, I was a little nervous that it was going to be a little bit too much cheese, but it definitely was not. This recipe turned out super, super delicious. You're also gonna take a little bit of breadcrumbs and mix that with a little bit of melted butter. I definitely would have wanted more breadcrumbs, but we were all out, so I just used what we had on hand. And then I'm just going to get all of this assembled together. So I'm just spraying my pan with a little bit of olive oil and then dumping the mac and cheese right in there. All of that cheesy goodness, you guys, this was amazing. Super creamy, delicious macaroni and cheese if that is what you are into. And of course, we're topping it with a little bit more shredded cheese. Like I said, cheddar would probably be better, but this is what I had, so that is what I'm using. And then here I am just topping it with a little bit of those breadcrumbs and the butter. And then I just popped that right into a 350-degree oven for right around 20 to 25 minutes until it was nice and golden brown on top. To pair that mac and cheese with, I just kept it really simple. I just did like some fried chicken strips in a pan. I just seasoned them up with a little bit of Tony's seasoning, some paprika, and some garlic powder. I have really been loving this Tony's seasoning lately. It's just a super good flavor. I love it on chicken. So if you've never tried this, I definitely would recommend it for just like seasoning up a really basic chicken recipe. So to cook these little chicken strips, all I'm doing is adding in about a tablespoon of butter and a little drizzle of olive oil, getting that heated up nice and hot, and then I'm adding my chicken strips right into there. Like I said, I just wanted a really, really simple chicken to pair with this baked mac and cheese, since the mac and cheese was kind of like the center of this meal, but of course I wanted a little bit of protein, so I'm just popping those into my pan. I probably cooked them for maybe like right around 5 minutes or so, get those flipped over, and they are good to go. This actually paired really well with the mac and cheese, and we really, really enjoyed this meal. Next up, I am making this buffalo chicken pizza, which this is a repeat recipe, but I promise you guys, if you haven't tried it yet, it is so good. You definitely want to give this one a shot. I'm just spraying my crock pot with a little bit of olive oil, and then I'm popping those 2 large chicken breasts right in there. And then I'm topping it with about a 1/2 cup of this medium wing sauce. It's just the Walmart brand one, and it works really good. And then you're also going to want to add about a tablespoon of ranch seasoning mix, and just get that mixed together as much as possible. You're gonna cook this on high for about 4 hours until your chicken is completely cooked through. And then when it comes out and it's all cooked, you're gonna go ahead and just shred it up. You can either use 2 forks or you can do what I do and use a hand mixer. It's totally up to you. And then you're gonna take your favorite pizza crust. I will have the recipe that I use linked down below. It's the KitchenAid one. I absolutely love it. I think it comes out so good every single time. And I'm just getting that pressed out into my pizza pan. Now we're moving on to the fun part of actually assembling the pizza. So I like to use a little bit of ranch, just drizzle on the bottom of the crust. I just feel like it adds a lot of extra flavor. And then I'm topping that with some buffalo chicken. Use however much you want. I do a pretty good amount, although I did have some left over, and we just use that in like buffalo chicken wraps. You can make quesadillas with it. You can do sandwiches. It's a really versatile chicken if you like buffalo chicken. So that is super, super delicious and really, really good for leftovers too. Now I'm not sure where this next footage went. Apparently I wasn't recording or something. I'm not even sure what happened, but I topped it with a little bit of mozzarella cheese, and then I also did some Colby and Monterey Jack. We just really like this combination of cheese. So once you have your cheese on there, go ahead and top it with a little bit more ranch, just drizzled right on top. And that is gonna be it for this pizza. Of course, you could do extra toppings on there if you want, but that is what I do. And then I just pop this right into about a 415-degree oven for, I think I did right around 20 minutes until everything is nice and golden brown. I always like to spread a little bit of butter right around my crust. I just feel like it adds so much flavor. It makes it kind of nice and soft. You could also do some garlic salt, some garlic powder. Anything like that would be super, super delicious. And then I'm just getting this served up. You guys, this pizza is seriously delicious. This was my husband's request for Father's Day dinner. So this is what I made him. It definitely wasn't anything fancy. We had a really busy day, but this is what he wanted. So I went ahead and made him this pizza. So if you guys like buffalo chicken, definitely try this recipe out. I think you will really enjoy it. Next up, I am just going to be making this Italian pasta salad, and I just served it with some hot dogs on the side. So I'm just starting off by getting my pasta going. So I'm using a full box of garden rotini, and I do go ahead and salt that water and then just cook those up to al dente. And when they are all done, you can go ahead and rinse them off with cool water. You want to do this so nothing gets stuck together. This just really helps the noodles from sticking together. So the hardest part about this salad, which I promise is not very hard at all, but you're just going to be cutting up tons of veggies, which makes this a perfect side salad for summer. So I am just cutting up some peppers first of all. So I have an orange pepper, and then I also have a yellow pepper. You guys know, if you watch any of my grocery hauls, we absolutely love peppers in this house. So I do about 1 full pepper for this recipe. I did half of a yellow, and then I did half of an orange one, and then I'm just cutting those up into pretty small pieces. You don't want them to be super tiny, but you know, good bite-sized pieces that go well with pasta salad. And then I'm also cutting up about half of a cucumber. This was a super seedy cucumber, so I definitely made sure to cut out all of the seeds or just get really waterlogged. I would definitely recommend doing that when you're putting cucumber in a pasta salad. You don't want it to get all waterlogged and make your pasta mushy. So just go ahead and chop all of that up, add it into your veggie bowl, and then we're gonna be moving on to the rest of the ingredients. So like I mentioned before, there's just a ton of cutting in this recipe. That's the hardest part about it, which, I mean, it's not hard, it just takes a little bit of time, but I promise you it's worth it. So we're gonna be cutting up some pepperoni. I'm just using the regular pepperoni, but you could use turkey pepperoni, you could use some summer sausage and cut that up, or you can buy the already cut up mini pepperonis if you want to make it super simple on yourself. I would say add probably about 2/3 of this package of pepperoni, and then I'm also adding adding in some mozzarella cheese. You can use like Colby and Monterey Jack or really whatever your family prefers for cheese, but we love to do cube cheese in this because that cheese doesn't get all gummy like shredded cheese would. So I definitely would say cube up your cheese. I use about 2/3 of a block of this for this amount of pasta salad. Now you're just gonna dump those noodles right into your bowl with all of those veggies and the cheese and the pepperoni. And then literally all we're using for dressing is this Zesty Italian dressing. It could not get any easier. It's like the simplest dressing ever. All you gotta do to make the salad is just like get everything cut up, throw it together, and it's the perfect salad to take to parties, for side dishes, barbecues, anything like that. It's just super simple. So yeah, all you need is this Zesty Italian dressing, and then I do like to add a little bit of salt in there. You're just gonna do all of this to taste. I do a lot of times add a little bit more dressing right before serving it. I just like the flavor, and a lot of that dressing will really absorb into the noodles. But we just paired this with hot dogs, and it was a super delicious dinner. Apparently we were just like really feeling the carbs this week because we had oodles of pizza and oodles of pasta. So go me, but this is gonna be a lazy mom pizza night. So I'm going to show you guys how I make my lazy pizza. So I'm just starting off with some tomato sauce. It's just a regular can of tomato sauce, and I like to season it up myself. So I like to do some Italian seasoning, some oregano, lots of garlic powder, lots of onion powder. Definitely going to need some salt and pepper in there. And then I also like to add in a little bit of sugar just to kind of cut some of the acidity from the tomatoes. But you're just going to do all of this to taste and see what you like. I love making my own pizza sauce. It just makes it really nice because you can really control the amount of sugar and also the amount of sodium in there, and you can just tweak it to your liking. So you're just gonna spray your baking sheet with a little bit of oil, and then all you're gonna need for the crust is literally a flour tortilla. It could not be any more simple. Just throw that on there, and then you're gonna top this with whatever toppings you want. So I'm using that pizza sauce that we just made. Don't do too much sauce or the crust could actually get soggy, but I mean I do a decent amount. And then I'm also topping it with some mozzarella cheese. Like I said, do what you want, but I was going super classic with this pizza, so I just have some mozzarella cheese there. And then I'm also going to be using some pepperoni for this dish. I also really love Canadian bacon on these pizzas, but we had pepperoni left over from that pasta salad. So this was just like a super easy late night, mom doesn't want to cook kind of dinner. You're just going to pop that into a 400-degree oven for about 15 minutes until the crust is like nice and golden brown. And you guys, this is honestly really, really good. If you like thin crust pizza that just has like tons of cheese but not a lot of crust, I bet you will love this recipe, and you can put it together in like literally minutes. So I definitely recommend trying this one out for a lazy night dinner. Alright guys, that is going to wrap up this week's What's for Dinner. I really hope that you enjoyed it and it gave you some meal ideas and inspiration for your own week. If you did, make sure to give it a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button if you have not already. I do tons of cooking videos on my channel. I do a What's for Dinner every single Sunday, tons of crock pot meals, meal prep, grocery hauls, things like that. So if you're interested, definitely hit that subscribe button. But that is going to be it for today's video. I will see you guys next time. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.
As a young girl, the fields were mine. We played hide and seek for hours, raised our shadows among the pines. So offshore, playful and free.